heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, your protector will not slumber. Behold, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian, God is your protection at your right hand. Adonai yishmor tzetecha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad olam. May the Eternal guard you from all harm. May God guard your soul in your going and your coming, now and forever. Death has summoned our beloved Sidney A. Zinamon. Our souls cry out unto you, O God. What are we? Are we the creatures of dust whose destiny is but to return to the dust from which we came? The ancient sage has taught us, the spirit of the human being is the lamp of the Eternal. Not even the darkness of death can extinguish the light which the Eternal has kindled in the sanctuary of the human soul. Therefore, O God, we thank you in this solemn hour for that which was deathless in the life of our cherished Sid, and which is now revealed to us in all of its beauty. For his love that united us in life, and which death cannot sever. For his companionship which we shared along life's path, and which still continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and of his mind, which brought us joy and happiness and now have become a precious heritage of the Spirit. For all these and more, we give you our praise. Grant unto us, O God, the strength of all the generations of our people, who in the face of bereavement proclaimed, Adonai Natan, v'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. God has given, God has taken away. Still, blessed be the name of God. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with the grief and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us, yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength in faith. With Job we say, Adonai Natan, God, you have given. You gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in his life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai Lakach, God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and your love, as we now say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. Blessed be the name of God, now and forever. In this season of Sukkot, we read from the book of Ecclesiastes, passage that's so familiar to us. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. We are headed into that holiday of Sukkot, the holiday of building that fragile hut that biblical lore has it that the Israelites dwelt in as they wandered through the desert. Later, as we became an agricultural society, the sukkah was also used during the fall festival as a temporary dwelling place so that workers could lodge in the fields and not have to return the long distances back to their homes. Today, the sukkah is a reminder to us of how dependent we are on God's good grace and to be grateful for all our many blessings, particularly that of a steady home and God's presence in our lives. Our beloved Sid Zinamon understood these themes from an early age. He knew how important a stable home could be when forced into the cruel wilderness. There was a time for child's play, and then a time when everything changed. Growing up in New Kensington, he was the youngest of the 3 children of Minnie and Abraham, with his mother dying when he was just 12 years old, and his father working hard to keep everyone afloat. Sid would remain forever indebted to his beloved sister, Ruth. Only 5 years older than he, it was because of Ruth's dedication that he did not have that sense of wandering in the wilderness after tragedy struck. Even after a sister would marry, she would bring Rob, her husband, to live in their home so that she would remain responsible for her siblings. Sid also had an older brother by 2 years, Morris, who died in service to our country during World War II. Family would always remain important to Sid. Sid has had a strong commitment to the workings of his family, and he was called upon to leave the comforts of his youth to assist in the family business. There was a time to be carefree and a time to become responsible. When his father bought another jewelry store and needed someone to oversee it, Sid was asked to leave his college experience at University of Pittsburgh to assist. Traveling to New York City with his father, he would enjoy the traditional deli foods he loved so much and engage in the traditions of the Diamond District. When it was time to seek a bride, he was fixed up with a University of Pennsylvania sophomore girl who was as beautiful on the outside as she was beautiful and strong on the inside. Although he was 7 years her senior, Marty made him wait until she finished college before she would marry him in 1956. Their timing led to 61 years of marriage together as they enjoyed the times of their growing family and weathered the vicissitudes of life. Creating their own family, Sid and Marty were delighted to become the parents of their 3 boys, of Jeffrey and Bobby and Stephen. Sid being a man's man, that seemed like the perfect combination to him. He had a love of the outdoors to share with them, even if he wasn't all that good at it. His idea of camping was as far from the fragile sukkah as you could get. He liked the sturdy cabins of up north, and let's just say the idea of going fishing. Somehow he never quite caught on that you were supposed to bring home a catch from your outings. Stephen, I think you put it best, and with the same sense of humor that your father had. You can teach a man to fish, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. These adventures turned into bigger ones as you'd all enjoy going boating together. He'd take you and your friends out for an afternoon of fun or an evening of fireworks. Tying up the boat at Shooters was a whole family affair. Sid was a wonderful captain, and that was true in so many aspects of his life. Marty, you were his co-captain in life's journey. First, because you took the Coast Guard class together with him, but more so because the two of you enjoyed each other all through your years as if you were still courting. As much as you had a wide circle of friends to enjoy together, your favorite evenings remained your date nights with the two of you sharing many laughs. There was a time for developing friends and a time for deepening your own friendship together. You and Sid often did that over a game of golf together. One of the first times out on the course, apparently he nudged you to pick up the ball from a sand trap, but you kept refusing. Finally frustrated yourself, you told him you'd never play golf with him again. And in his quick-witted way, he retorted, "Promises, promises." He could make you laugh even when you were not in the mood. Your life was full together, times at Oakwood Club, gatherings, theaters, and symphony, and your travels included cruises in many places of interest, including Israel. Sid had planned on going to Israel a couple times earlier, but health reasons deterred his efforts. Finally, in 1990, when because of the situation there most others were frightened away, Sidney courageously made it his priority. He loved that trip, and wherever he went, it was his warm smile that seemed to welcome people into his orbit. But it was his family gatherings together that brought him the greatest joy. Many of those family gatherings would include his nieces and nephew, Janet and Marty and Sandy, now of blessed memory. Having grown up in the same house with them for a while, Sid remained close and devoted to them, and in later years would depend on them to stay connected to Ruth. Big family festivities often centered around the Jewish holidays. Sid's father had been involved in the synagogue, even becoming temple president, and later Sid would follow suit and accept the same role, and Marty, you would become the president of the sisterhood. Their dedication to family and the Jewish community intersected, from celebrating seders at home to sounding the shofar in the synagogue. They lived a full and busy life with their 3 sons and their community involvement. It was a time of watching their lives and their business thrive. Because they owned the building for Zinamon jewelry, there was a big Z carved into the sidewalk that marked the place of the institution and remained there. But as the coal industry changed in the area, it became time for Sid to change career focus. Sid became a salesperson for a chemical supply company. With his charming personality and gregarious disposition, he could sell you anything. It was the pleasure of enjoying the man that they were really buying as much as the product. From there, Sid was wooed away to Matter International and invited to open the Ohio district. They decided to make home base here in Cleveland around 1969 to join up with Marty's family already established here. As Sid's heart issues started to become more significant with open heart surgeries in 1969 and then in 1972 again, Sid needed to put a stop to some of the travel, and it became the time to open his own business of zircon industry. They made industrial chemicals and patented a special de-icer, which became an international asset to maintain the conveyor belt for coal miners and so many other industries. Recognizing that Sid needed him, Bobby came into the business and had the privilege of seeing his father in his work world. On your first trip with him, Bobby, where he was going to start introducing you around, you made the biggest mistake of your business life, which was to share a room with your dad. But his snoring through that whole night was a sign of his being at peace finally, because he knew he was turning the business over to your trustworthy hands. You called him the godfather of sales, and you saw how he was beloved and well respected by his employees and customers and frontline coal miners alike. He was a people person, at the same time possessing a humbleness that engaged people. You saw people affected by his wisdom, and you yourself benefited from it as you built the business with his encouragement. The advice that transpired on the golf course that you both enjoyed playing together was less about how to hit the ball and more about how to head a family and to build a happy work environment and a general community. That was also true for Stephen. You're not sure if you heard your dad actually say it or because he lived it, but you'd repeat in his name, "Make a friend, make a sale." And you'd often make up other aphorisms that meant do the right thing. He was modeling for you how to treat people and how to uphold a good business ethic. And although you spent most of your adult years in Chicago, the visits and the calls that kept you close and kept you in sync with him are things you'll always treasure. Jeffrey, too, became a trusted confidant for Sid. When the time came that he needed you to be around to help him, you came through as an added pair of hands that also supported your mom. For the 3 of you boys, the love of your father helped make you the men who you are. His way with his friends became your way. He was a loyal, fun-loving kind of guy. You remembered the great family trips with one of his dear friends, Irv Green, who had been his older brother's best friend, and for both of them, that friendship was a way of holding on to the sweet memories of a simpler life. Like a brother to Sid, they'd play gin for hours, kibitz or argue about something, hang out at the beach or hit the golf course. His son wrote to you that what he remembered most was Sid's warm, infectious smile that seemed to make those trips memorable for all. And that was the same for all of his friends, and especially for your boyhood friends. Sid crossed generational divides and was a friend and advisor to so many of different ages. Young men hanging out at your house when you were younger enjoyed Sid's sincere interest in them, and he was a good listener. He'd continue with that with his grandchildren. Sid loved to see Michael and Charlie growing up. He appreciated their gentlemanly manner and the Menschlichkeit that they demonstrated around him to the very end. He liked hearing about your lives, whether it was from Jeanette telling him stories over the great chocolate treats you'd bring him. You were his greatest supplier of all good things in life. And he loved hearing the stories directly from you boys yourselves. While he was proud of Michael at his bar mitzvah, we missed Sid at Charlie's bar mitzvah as his seizures again began to impact his health. But Charlie, you recently got to tell your grandfather about your new school, and I'm sure you'll certainly hear your grandfather in your head reflecting on, and I quote, "livin' the Charlie life." He liked his corny jokes, and you boys liked hearing him laugh at his own material. He even took Jeanette and Michael and Charlie out for a horseback ride recently as a way, and a picnic to follow as his way of building memories for you. For Noah and for Sam, Sid was also such a warm presence in your youth and a model of a mensch in your later years. What a great example he was for all of the men in his life. Sid had a strong personality that welcomed family and friends. He was beloved by Marty's family, by her sister Susie and husband Dennis, and cousins Judy and Lynn and Jim and Carol. That you all came in here today to honor that special relationship means so much to the family. And that so many of his friends are here to remember this special man is such a tribute to the person he was in all of your lives. Sid made friends wherever he went. He loved his lunch buddies at the club and his golf friends and his boating gang. He even liked his doctors and appreciated their good care. Sid also had his supermarket friends, most of whom were Marty's good girlfriends, who were a little envious of Marty that Sid was always at the grocery store picking out exactly what you needed. He was a connoisseur of good food, but mostly of good people. He never had a bad thing to say about a person. Rather, Sid would say, "The best revenge is living good." Sid was blessed with good living, even as he was well aware that life can sometimes be like the sukkah, when winds blow and shake the structures. However, every year was a time for renewal of that structure and for creating special memories with the people he loved. And like the tradition of welcoming guests into the sukkah, he enjoyed all the guests in his life. Even to the last weeks when Marty came up with the brilliant idea of inviting a couple over for cocktail hour, something the two of them had shared all their years together. Sid was delighting in his friends, but unfortunately that didn't get to last too long as health concerns moved too quickly to debilitate his enthusiasm. Sid liked living life on his terms, having fun and contributing in meaningful ways to the lives of his family and friends. It's all those meaningful encounters with Sid over 89 years of his life that we will all remember as we arrive at this time to say our final farewell. In this moment, we join with the sages to declare, Zichrono livracha. May our memories of Sid be a source of comfort to us and be our blessing. Amen. Each of us has special memories of Sid. We take a moment now as we silently compose the eulogy of our own hearts. May May not only the words that we speak, but even our most private and precious meditations and memories be acceptable to you, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. We ask God to accept Sid's soul with the words of El Malay. Please rise. El Malay Rachamim, Shochen Bamaromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, Im Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Shlomo Ben Avraham V'Malka, Shel Halach L'Olamo, Baal Harachamim Yastirehu, B'Seter Kanafav L'Olamim, B'Tzror HaChaim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato, V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo, v'nomar amen. O compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Sidney A. Zinamon, Shlomo, son of Avraham and Malka, who has entered unto eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us answer, Amen. You may be seated. Our service continues at the Mayfield Cemetery, and following that, the family will receive guests at their home at 25412 Halberton Road today until 4, and then again from 4 to 9, and Wednesday from 2 to 5. Suggestions for contributions are to Menorah Park or to the Temple to Fereth Israel.